Alright guys, so this is problem number 10 from the chapter 2 and 3 quiz. And we need to evaluate this expression. So remember that evaluate means that we're going to have to eventually express this as a single numerical value. So our order of operations are most important here. So remember the very first thing that we need to look at is our parentheses. That's the first thing you have to take care of per the order of operations. So notice that we do have two pairs of parentheses, but you cannot simplify anything inside of these parentheses. You just have a -2 and a 9. Can't simplify either of those any further, so we move on to the next thing, which is our exponents. And we do have an exponent here. So notice that your power, or your exponent, is 3, and that is connected to the base of -2. So we are taking -2 to the third power. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this, guys. And I'm going to go ahead and perform what this exponent is telling us to do. And that is we need to take -2 and multiply it to itself 3 times. So we're going to have -2 times -2 times -2. And I've showed this in a video before, but if you hadn't watched that one, this step is not necessary. I just think it's good to see this step so that we remember what we do if we have a power or if we have an exponent to deal with. All right, so that's exactly what an exponent says. It says to take your base and multiply it to itself however many times the power represents. So in this case we have -2 to the third power, so we multiply -2 to itself once, twice, 3 times. Alright, so when we do that multiplication, that's actually performing the exponent. So we do need to do this multiplication. So that's what we will do next. Remember, everything else just stays how it is until we eventually get to it and deal with it. So let's multiply here. -2 times -2. A negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 2 is 4. So that's a +4 times a -2 is -8. And then we still have the multiplication by 9. All right. So now we have taken care of all of our exponents. The next thing we need to look for is multiplication and division. All right, I notice that we do have multiplication here. We actually have two instances where we're going to multiply. We have one here and we have one here as well. So if there is a tie, remember you always go from left to right. So we have -50 minus, and now our multiplication starts. We have 7 times a -8. That is going to be a -56, excuse me. And then we still need to multiply that by 9. Alright, since we're not done with multiplication and division, we need to finish those up first before we move on to addition and subtraction. So we still have the -50 out front, minus, and now we have a -56 times 9. Need the calculator to help us out here. So we have -56 times 9. And that is -504. -504. Alright, so now that is all of our multiplication and division. So next is addition and subtraction. And we really only have this one operation left, which is subtraction. However, I want us to remember that subtracting is the same thing as adding the opposite. So in this case, subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive. So we're going to have -50 plus 504. So we have -50 plus 504. And then this will be our final answer, 454. All right, guys, so for these types of problems, just remember order of operations is most important. Parentheses first, then exponents, then multiplication and division, then addition and subtraction.